what it is, what's happening. So I took a couple days off and went down to the Ocean City car cruise. Took the old 52 Ford down, no problems. But before I left, I was in the shop here working on this Bronco. And it's one nice thing about owning your own place. I was irritated Wednesday night. I pulled the doors down and said, to hell with this place, I'm done with it. So what was my issue that made me throw a fit? Well, this Bronco started out as a 2-inch lift. I kind of snowballed and rolled downhill into a bunch of other stuff. Where ended up ball joints, the steering linkage, the adjustment sleeves right here to adjust the steering. They're so rusty that even when I tried to heat them up, the one barely still wanted to turn. So, you know, the lineman shop's going to give the guy some issues. So I called my customer. He says, look, man, I'm keeping this truck. It's only got 63,000 miles on it. He said, let's make it right. Let's just replace everything. Okay, no problem. Because it did have one lower ball joint that was a little on the iffy side. No problem. So I tear it all down, clean everything up, paint everything up for him, you know, get everything nice and clean, press the ball joints in, put her together. A lot of times I will leave the upper cam bushing out and I'll draw the upper ball joint up tight to help draw the bottom one in so you can tighten it up. Now this is Napa's, which I believe Moog makes them for Napa if I had to guess, but it's their higher quality ball joint. This is not the first time I've had this problem. So if you guys are working on Ford Bronco or Ford pickup, twin I-beam, actually even some of the Chevy trucks, the old straight axle with the ball joints, I've run into this problem in the last quite a few years with this being a problem. So I'm going to point it out, maybe to help you guys. The lower nut that goes on the lower ball joint is knurled. What happens is, as you put the lower ball joint, the nut on the lower ball joint, it gets down to the knurled point, and it actually starts to tear the threads up. It galls the threads up to the point where I couldn't tighten it up, and I couldn't back it off either. So I tried everything in my power to save it, but it's never going to be right, and it never drawed it all the way up in there. So what's going to happen is it's never going to be tight. So I'm going to have to actually cut the nut off of this with the torch. And I'm not affiliated with this company, but I have used these ball joints here in the past couple times, and I'm very, very impressed with how it's a high quality ball joint. It is a little bit more money, but I'm going to tell you right now, I've been using these things on my own stuff. They're a hard sell because they're a little bit more money, and guys are like, but they're going on this truck because I'm done. This was the last time I'm using these, because the knurled nut tears the ball joint up, and then even if you would have to take it apart down the road, you're going to have to cut it off because it's not going to come off. So these are TTX. I mean, they're packaged in a package really, really well. So there's your new lower ball joint from TTX. You got a little rubber cap you pop off. Your grease fitting is going to screw into there. The nut just has, if you can see, the nut just has a green Loctite on it. But what else is nice is it's got a slot. So if it starts to turn, let me see if I can find what I have here. Fast anyway. I have this tool that goes on my 1/2-inch drive, and I can hold on to that bad boy with a breaker bar, a ratchet, and then get in there with a wrench to finish tightening it up, and I don't have to worry about the stem of this spinning in the beam. Very nice. It also comes with, to help you install it with your ball joint press, it actually even comes with a ring, which is like a protective sleeve so you don't tear any of this up. This goes on there, then your cup will fit right on there. Press this bad boy in. A little bit more money, but I'm going to tell you right now, these things are nice. I've used these a lot. And very nice ball joint. It's a quality ball joint. It's none of this other garbage that's been out here on the street. I mean, the grease fitting's even got a little rubber cap that goes on the grease fitting. I mean, everything's packaged really well. As soon as you open the box up, you're like, I mean, the box is, you know, a double wall box. I mean, not that that really matters, but my point is somebody's taking some time to build a quality ball joint that's going to actually last. I've used these in the past and I was impressed. They're a little hard to find a lot of times, but now my local Napa store is starting to carry these. But for a long time, you couldn't get them. I had to mail order them. But now you're actually able to get these at the local Napa. This is the part number for the lower ball joint. I already have the uppers in, so we're going to roll with the uppers. They'll be fine. Like I said, I believe, if I had to take a wild guess, the Napa stuff is probably made by Moog. And the last few years, I haven't been too impressed. Now my project over here, my green Ford that I've had apart for a million years, I was able to buy all Ford ball joints. So it's getting actually all Ford ball joints in that, which was just by dumb luck I was able to get Motorcraft ball joints. So I'll use them, but the next one I do is going to get these bad boys. I forget who makes these, but they've been around a while. But very quality ball joint. So that will fix our problem that we're having with this thing. So today, that's today's project. I'm going to go ahead and finish up these ball joints. Going to do U-joints. Another thing too, I've talked about this before. When you get your spindle off, I've talked about this 1,000 times. Your axle goes through this spindle. There's a bearing right there. This is a non-serviceable bearing unless you have this spindle off. I tell guys all the time, pack that thing full of grease, clean this up real good, and pack some grease in here because you're never going to be able to service it unless you take it apart. So I tell guys to use a good marine grade grease, especially if you're going to wheel this thing or take it on the beach or through the woods or something, because you can't service that unless you take that apart. So I always tell guys, pack it full, real nice and tight with grease. I had a truck one time years ago. It was a Chevy truck, which is the same exact setup. It had Dana 44 front rear. It was a half-ton Chevy pickup. It had full-time lock and hubs, which means the front rear and everything in the drive shaft was spinning the whole time you're driving. It utilizes the same exact setup where the axle goes through. So the customer called me and says, I got 35, 40 mile an hour. This truck makes a weird noise. He says, it sounds like a chain dragging down the road. He says, I can't figure it out. He says, we put U-joints in this truck, brakes. They were throwing the farm at this truck. So I said, bring it by. Let me take it for a ride. So I took it for a ride, and it was a strange noise. It took me a couple seconds to figure it out. I put the truck in full-wheel drive and just went down the road. And the noise changed. And I went, that's awful odd. So I thought maybe it's in the transfer case because the dry shaft's spinning. So we brought it in the shop, put it up on the lift, and ran it. And ran it in full-wheel drive on the lift. And you could actually watch where the front axle goes through the spindle. It was bouncing around and going all over the place. I'm like, that's fucking weird. But you could hear that noise in there. And what it turned out being when we got it all apart, when I pulled the spindle off, all the needle bearings fell out. So all the needle bearings were rolling around in there, and it was making this, at like 35, 40 mile an hour, making this literally sound like a chain dragging behind the truck. It was weird. But the truck had never been apart, and it was an abused old, late 70s, early 80s Chevy half-ton pickup. But I've said 1,000 times, guys, if that bearing, when you go up, like these here are nice and clean. So we'll clean them up, pack it full of some good quality grease, and it'll be fine. But if you get one apart and it's rusty in there, you got to buy the bearing, the inner spindle bearing kit. It'll come with the little spindle bearing and a couple of rubber seals. But I tell people all the time, pack that thing full of grease. The man just went by doing about 100, it looked like. So anyway, yeah, that's about it for today. All I can think of right now. The cop car fucking distracted me. Kind of like, ooh, squirrel. Ooh, red ball. I'm going to throw a few clips in from the show down there. Some really nice stuff down there. Really, really wicked chop top Chevy van. Big block in it, big block Chevy in it, which in an early Chevy van, you don't see a big block Chevy. You could never, ever get a big block Chevy in an early 70s van. You could get a big block Chevy in like a 90s Chevy van, but you could not get one in early. The engine hole is smaller, and Chevy vans, the motors are set offset. They widen the engine hole and everything. Really, really wild van. So it's chopped. The front of the windshield, or front of the roof is chopped. It's chopped on a slope, tilt front end. Pretty wild piece. Saw that down there. Saw a really, really neat bread truck. The guy polished all the aluminum on the bread truck, and it's on like a later model. Looks like a later model Super Duty frame, and it had a Cummins in it with a stick. Pretty neat truck. I'll slip that in there. There's just some really other wild, neat stuff down there. Was, hoping to get something different in mind down there instead of the 52, but it is what it is. Overall, good time. I'm going to actually slip back down this evening. Just going to go down in the new truck and just kind of ride around because I'm literally 30 minutes from the beach. So Ocean City is like maybe 45 minutes. So it's close for us. That's why we go. A lot of people don't like going to OC anymore. The cops kind of are dicks. but for me, it's close, you know, so I enjoyed it. So I'll slip some pictures in, holler at your boy a little bit later, and keep it real. Maybe you guys got something out of that on the next time you do some ball joints on your half-ton, F-150, Bronco, even your 250s I've had this problem on. So you might want to look into a set. Like I said, I'm not affiliated with these guys. Although if TTX likes to reach out to me, I would be more than glad to. I'm really pleased with this part. It's a very, very nice quality ball joint. I've used them in several other applications besides the four-wheel drive stuff. Very, very nice high quality ball joint. And I'm going to try to, now that my store can get these and starting to get them, I'm going to start pushing these a little more because, sorry Moog, but your stuff has just gone downhill. It's as bad as like AutoZone ball joints. I mean, they're just terrible. This had me so heated the other night. Oh, it pissed me off. You know, I'm putting it back together, and it's just spinning. I knew it as I was turning the nut. I could feel that it wasn't, you know, going to make it. But at that point, it wasn't. I know it wasn't going to come back off. So let's just try to tighten it up, see what we can do. But it's done. So I went and talked to the store, and I told him I'm going to have to cut it off the torch. And he's like, do what you got to do. He said, I'll warranty that. And I said, well, let's step up to these other ones. Can you get them? He's, oh, yeah, I can get that whole line now. Anyway, holler at your boy. Keep it reals. Catch me on the next one. Deuces.